All right, my Halloween loving friends, let's get started on our little ticket to the Halloween bash. Again, I'm not going to have you watch me base coat because y'all know how to base coat, right? So this ticket plaque, you base the center area in with turquoise blue. The ends are based with Irish moss. This little stripe here is based with dragon fruit, and the thicker stripe is based with purple cow. And once you get that based and it's dried, you want to give it a quick sand so that it will give you a smooth painting surface. And then your pumpkin cutout, which eventually will be glued on here, you want to base the pumpkin with burnt orange, the stem with burnt umber, and his little party horn is what I'm going to call it. You want to base that with warm white. You also want to go ahead and apply the pattern for the divisions in the pumpkin, for his eyes, a line for his mouth, and just the swirl on the party horn. We are going to be using several stencils or stencil material during the process. I tried to pick ones that you might have already, but please know that whatever stencil you want to use on this background, I'm just going to kind of wipe it on my palette and blend it and kind of get it a little bit dry. You can kind of feel it tugging at you, at your brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to add some streaks that go diagonally one way, and then I'm going to go back and reload that brush. I'm going to add the stripes diagonally. It's kind of dry brushed just to break up the background a little bit. Doesn't matter if you get start and stop sections, it'll be okay. Okay. So then I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz Flourish stencil, and I'm going to line this puppy up. See. Trying to line up the top and the side. I think I'll tape it just so I can keep it in one place for right now. And I need to get out my stencil brush. And again, I need a little bit more turquoise blue. And a little bit more warm white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the turquoise blue on my stencil brush and then pick up some warm white and lighten that up a little bit. And I'm going to stencil this flourish design onto the background. Just want to see. Oh yeah, it looks nice, if I say so myself. Okay. It's the day after 4th of July here, so we still have a few people with leftover fireworks. Okay, oh, I think that looks really nice. So now I'm just going to move this on and see if I can figure out where see if I can match it up. Never my easy thing to do. Really, if you don't match it up, it'll be okay. Okay, I think I got it here. Yeah. There we go. And line in the middle. It kind of overlaps a little bit, but it does match. Okay. A little time consuming, but it looks so pretty. That's what we're going for, right? Pretty? All right. Now we're going to line it up again. I know I figured it out. How did I figure it out? Okay, there it is. Okay. Right there. Those are some big ones. So repeat 3 times. All right. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. With our little pumpkin on there, it's going to look fabulous. I'm going to set that stencil aside, and I'm rinsing out my brush. All right, I told you I was going to use my Punchinello a little bit. So I washed out my brush, and I'm drying it off really good. This time I'm going straight warm white. And I'm just going to do some straight warm white random clusters of dots. It's one of my favorite sayings, the random cluster of dots, right? Just in a few places. All right. Adding interest to the background, that's all we're doing. So I can set aside my Punchinello and rinse out my stencil brush. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to float some shading around all four sides of this with that true blue. It is fine. So this one is the Tim Holtz Flourish. I think we've used that a few times on things that we painted. You're also going to want to use a 1/4 inch stripe stencil. And I'm thinking I'll probably be using a little bit of Punchinello here and there. And then because there's so much lettering on this, I went ahead and cut a big old lettering stencil for you. And it's in the, it's all spaced out the way it goes on the project. So all you got to do is kind of line that "Come If You Dare" inside that purple stripe, tape it down on the ends, and you will have your lettering all ready to stencil. All right, so we're going to have lots of fun. Now if you don't want to buy the lettering stencil, it's going to be a little more expensive because it's a little bigger and it's a lot of lettering, and trust me, it's a pain to take all the little things out, the little cuts out. So that's why it's a little more expensive. It's a little bit more labor intensive. So we are going to go ahead and set this aside, and we'll go to work on our pumpkin first. Now I based the pumpkin in burnt orange. So let me get a little closer to this guy, and we'll see what we can come up with for him. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is we are going to dry brush some highlighting on our pumpkin, on all the little sections, which are called flutes. I'm sure if you've painted with me before, you've heard me explain that that's what those are called. And we're going to do the first dry brush with moon yellow. So however you like to dry brush, just go to town. If you want to see how I like to dry brush, you can go to the Sandy LeFlore YouTube channel, and there is a video there that shows you, and it's actually on pumpkins. So you could see how I like to dry brush. So I'm going to dry brush this moon yellow through the center of each section, each flute, just to get it highlighted up, right? Can even get a little on those little back sections. That would be great. Center one gets the most dry brushing, and you can go ahead and dry brush around those eyes. And there we go. I think he's looking pretty good already. And I did kind of avoid his little mouth area. It's just going to help with the shading later. All right. And last section. Scrubbing some dry brushing on there. You should have to scrub to get the paint off your brush. There's no water in it at all. So if you have to scrub hard to get it off, then you're doing it well. All right. I'm going to go ahead and wash this brush out, but I'm going to use it again pretty quickly. So that's what I like about these Langnickel short round sables, is that I can dry them out on my palette and use them again relatively quickly. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to float some highlighting, and I'm going to float the highlighting with moon yellow also. Okay, so blend it out nice, so you get a nice soft float. It's going to go on really bright, but as it dries, it tones itself down. So don't panic. Don't forget those little flutes in the back behind the stem. You do want to highlight on those. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the outside edge, float down the outside edge. Then I'm going to float the left side of the center, and then I'll turn it around to float the other side. Sorry, I got distracted. Easily done these days. So I'm going to float, and you can see it goes on pretty bright. And I like to mop my floats just to soften them a little bit. Now I'm going to float that center section. You can see already it's toned way down. All right, I'm going to turn this guy over so I can do the other sides. And I always start on the outside edge because that way I don't run the risk of wiping out a float I just put on there. And we will be shading, and it will go over parts of this highlight float, but it'll be okay, trust me. I painted a few pumpkins in my day. Got a little thin. Okay. A little bit wider float. All right. Oh, he's looking cute already. So I'm going to dry this real quick, and then we're going to come back and do some shading. Okay, so I'm going to do some shading on here. And the first shade is going to be with very well blended out country red. I always like to put some red into my pumpkins. So I'm going to start here at the top and go on this little flute back here, the little piece of a flute that you can see. And then I'm going to come down on either side of that center section with a nice float of country red. All right, one side done. Let's go do the other side. Again, I'll turn it over. Got a little frog in my throat. I apologize. Okay, so now I'm going to also shade in the top and the bottom of each flute. And I say that because we're going to treat each flute like its own individual section. All right, we're not going to do anything to these two little back ones, but the three main ones, we're going to float some shading in the top of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a little ways down on the side, and yes, it goes over a highlight you just did, but it'll be okay. I'm just going to do like a C stroke in the top. And I want to walk that color down just a little bit. So I'm going to start a little ways down the side, again on top of that highlight you did. But it's good practice, right? Besides, you really wouldn't know where to stop. All right. And let's do this last section, again starting at the side. All right. And we're going to do the very same thing in the bottoms. So I'm going to start up the side edge a little bit and float this country red in the bottom of the flutes. That's better. And this one I'm going to float in here. I also want to pull a little bit on this side here, above the little party horn. So I'm going to come down the side a little bit, and then I'm going to float around the party horn. All right. Looking pretty good. It's looking pretty pumpkin-y to me. So we are going to deepen this shading with floats of burnt umber. And so wherever you floated with country red, you're going to come back and you're going to float again with a very soft float of burnt umber. So again, I'm just going to go on these back little guys. I think I want to mop those a little bit, soften them. I'm going to come down that side edge next to the center flute again. Also going to get it off my little horn. Don't forget underneath. And let's do the other, up the other side next to the center. Okay, we're getting there. And now we're going to float in the tops and the bottoms again. So again, starting down the side edge a little bit. And again, you want to walk that color down just a tad. Okay, and the bottoms. Okay. Don't forget, you're going to go around the little party horn too. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to dry this a little bit and we'll come back and do a little bit brighter highlighting on it. Alright, we want to bump up the highlighting on the flutes, and we're going to do that with some dry brushes of warm white. And this is going to stay like in the tops of the flutes and in the bottoms. So I'm just going to scrub a little bit of warm white just to bring that highlight up a little bit. And in this center section, it's going to go down lower on one side than it does on the other, just because it can. We're not going to do it to these little back sections because they're behind. They don't really need to be highlighted. So in the bottom, I'm just going to go kind of like I did in the top. Just a little scrub of warm white to brighten this up and give it a little bit more dimension. All right, he's looking really good. We're going to work on his facial features next. So we're going to get out a few new colors and we'll go from there. All right, so one of the first things we want to do is we want to give him some nice round cheeks. I'm going to go ahead and do that with dragon fruit. That's the color that we use to put that little stripe on our ticket plaque. And the cheeks kind of sit on his, you know, it starts at his mouth, more above his mouth than below his mouth. But right on the ends of his mouth, you want to just give him some nice pink cheeks. And over here, it's going to be a little trickier because you got your party horn there. But he can still get some pretty nice cheeks. And those are just dry brushed on with dragon fruit. Now you want to go ahead and paint his eyes and line his mouth in with soft black. I'm using a round. You are welcome to use whatever brush you like to just paint in these little facial features, these little wonky triangles. All right. They don't have to be opaque. There's a lot of stuff going inside these eyes. You know me, nothing's ever just, doesn't have a lot of layers. Let's just say the truth. Boy, this year is just going fast. I can't believe it. It will be Halloween before we know it. Think about how many things you've already painted this year for Halloween. I chose soft black. because it's not quite as harsh as lamp black. I want this guy to be a little bit softer, a little bit friendlier. So that's why I went with soft black. Alright, I am going to change to a liner brush to put his mouth on, if I can find one. There we go. And this is kind of a thick line because we do need to line highlighting on it. So don't do a real skinny mouth. So I'm going to do this line first. Again, this is with soft black. Okay. And if you wanted to put the pattern on for the barbed wire, that would be fine too. So I'm just going to put some barbs on here. I'm just winging it. I didn't put my pattern on, which could be a mistake. Who knows? And then there is one here that's going to stop when you get to the party horn, of course. And I'm going to go ahead and get closer for these next little things. So we're going to do some little strokes on here that are kind of curved. They're like backwards C's. Well, no, they're not backwards. It depends. But you're just going to do a curved stroke across the middle, kind of like how barbed wire has that piece of wire wrapped around. So I'm going to I did just three little curved strokes. Okay. So now we can let that dry. Already our eyes are dry. So we are going to dry brush some highlighting inside our eyes with moon yellow. I'm just going to brighten them up, give them a little bit of a glow. Obviously not going to do that on the mouth. And then you're also going to take your liner brush. This one is a number 2. And I'm going to line what I'm considering the cut edge of the eyes with moon yellow. Now I'm not going to add water. And in fact, I'm going to kind of wipe it out on my palette a little bit so I get a more dry brush. So I'm going to line the left side. I'm going to come down the left side, and you see how it kind of ran out of paint? That's okay. That's good. And I'm going to go across the bottom. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing on the other eye. This one didn't run out as easily, but it'll be just fine. So I might darken this one a little bit. All right. Now what we're going to do is you want to get out some turquoise blue, which was the main section of your ticket plaque. And we are going to float kind of an oblong C stroke in each eye with turquoise blue. You don't have to blend it out too terrible much because you do want to leave some color there. So I'm just going to start here and pull this little C stroke inside that eye. Not outside that eye. Inside that eye. And the same thing here. Another little C stroke. I want a little bit more color in there. You can float it again to deepen it a little. All right. So I'm going to paint the little oval pupils in each eye. And those are going to be with lamp black. Wanted them to stand out a little bit more. So they're just little ovals. You can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can make one big, one small, which is probably what I'll end up doing, because that's just what I do. All right, so we'll let those dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to float a highlight above the mouth and on the across the bottom and the outside edge of each eye with moon yellow. This one you want to blend out quite a bit. You don't want it to be real yellow. So I'm going to go above the mouth, which means I'm going to keep my hands out of those eyes. I'm just going to highlight right above that mouth, tucking a little bit in between the barbed wire. And then I'm also going to go on the outside edge of each eye and underneath the eye. So underneath and up the outside edge. We're going to float some burnt umber underneath the mouth. You can see how much that moon yellow has toned down. So right underneath, and you can just go right through the barbed wire with the burnt umber, because it's not going to matter. And then I'm going to go the inside edge of each eye. Turn this over. So let's give him some highlight dots with warm white in the top of each pupil. That brightens up his eyes right away. And then we're also going to line highlighting on that barbed wire. So I want you to think like barbed wire, okay? I'm going to line across the little straight part, but I'm stopping when I get to those little curls, those little curves. And then I'm going to come and I'm going to line a highlight on those little curves, which is going to help it look like barbed wire even more. This one goes this way. And then you also want to line a little highlight on the barbs. Okay. I think this little guy needs some eyebrows. So I'm going to go ahead and line those on with thin, soft black. And they're kind of worried eyebrows, squiggly. Then, don't it too thick. All right. Now, let's see. I think I want to touch just a little bit of burnt umber shading just in the corner of each eye where the cut edge is. Just to, I don't know, tone that down a little bit. I'm going to go up in the top here and the sides. So I did it in the corner. I just did it on the bottom one, and then top and outside edge. Okay. Our stem is painted with burnt umber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my number 2 liner. I'm going to pick up burnt umber on my brush. But then I'm also going to pick up some moon yellow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to think like a pumpkin. It has ridges and cracks in it. So I'm going to pull that mix of burnt umber and moon yellow just to start forming some of those ridges. What I want to do next is I want to pick up some soft black, and I'm going to line some darker little streaks in there to make it look like even more ridges. Let's pick up a little warm white and just highlight the tops of those ridges. Just add a little stroke of warm white across the top there. And then what I want to do is I want to take a flat brush and I'm going to float soft black at the base. Just to tuck that stem down into the pumpkin a little bit. I do think his little eyes need a little bit of a highlight on that blue. So again, with my liner brush, I'm going to pick up some turquoise blue and a little bit of warm white, just for a lighter value, rather than pull in another bottle of paint. And I'm just going to lighten it up and add just a little bit of a highlight down through the center of that stroke. All right, now we can work on our little party horn. So what I want to do first is I want to decide what colors do I want to paint on this. I'm thinking I want to do lamp black and Irish moss. So you can put the pattern on for the little stripes, or you can just wing it. So our party horn was painted with warm white. So I'm just going to come and add some green Irish moss stripes. Now I'm spacing them apart so I can fit a lamp black stripe in there too. You notice I'm curving them a little bit just to help give that horn some shape. And I guess I could have left a little more space in between, but that's what you get when you wing it. And so again, trying to keep your hands out of any fresh paint you have on your pumpkin. which the only place would actually be the stem, and I think it's pretty much dry. It's kind of thinking like a seashell, really. And then when you get to the inside, they all kind of come from the same little point. Now, while I'm there, I'm going to go ahead and pick up some moon yellow. And I'm going to line a highlight through the center of each of those little stripes. Just to give this party horn, some dimension. And now I'm going to go to a smaller brush. This one is it says it's a 2/0. If you have a 10/0, that would work. And I'm going to pick up, I'm actually going to thin down some lamp black. And I'm going to add some black stripes in between the green. Just keep following the shape that you've set forth in your green stripes. That should make it easy, right? Okay. Awesome. And of course, we need to highlight the center of those stripes. Even though they're teeny tiny, you want to add just a touch of warm white on these. Wouldn't be right if we didn't. You can tell it's just a touch. Not too terrible much. All right. So now we need to float some shading on this. All right, and I am going to float shading on this guy with some very well blended out true blue. So I'm going to start along and do the bottom edge. Goes across all the stripes. Okay, let's do it. Basically, we're going to go all the way around this little circle thing, the little twisty corkscrew. I don't know what they're called. And let's do here. And okay, also want to do the other side. Well, I want to do next to the twisty thing. Probably need to let this dry a little bit. I'm going to go across the top edge of it. And I'm going to continue just kind of bounce around until you can get every edge with a float. It really doesn't take that long. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our liner brush and line a brighter highlight with warm white. And it's going to be across the top, but it's not through the center. It's a little above center. So I go there and stop when I get to the little circular part. And the circular part again is going to go just a little above center. And you notice it doesn't go here. I kind of trailed it off right at the bottom. And then I'm going to go around this way. Now what I want to do is I want to make it add a little bit to his mouth right here, so it looks like it's actually going into his little mouth. So all I'm going to do is take some soft black and just kind of extend the mouth a little bit on either side of that point of the party horn. Sorry, I can't paint and talk at the same time apparently. So it just kind of gives the illusion that it's actually stuck in his little mouth. I think that we can call this little guy done. I think he's going to look really cute on there. I don't know about you, but I think he's going to look darling. So I'm going to set him aside. And what I want to do is I want to tape off my center section so I can do some stenciling. So I'm going to back up here a little bit. We'll get out some blue painter's tape. I'm going to just tape this blue section off. Both sides. All right. There we go. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to take my large flat brush. This is a great big mama. It's a 1 inch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some turquoise blue on it, and I'm going to pick up some warm white. I want to make a lighter value of turquoise blue, and I'm just going to kind of wipe it on my palette. I didn't pick up any water. I'm just going to kind of wipe it on my palette and blend it and kind of get it a little bit dry. You can kind of feel it tugging at you, at your brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to add some streaks that go diagonally one way, and then I'm going to go back and reload that brush. I'm going to add the stripes diagonally. It's kind of dry brushed just to break up the background a little bit. Doesn't matter if you get start and stop sections, it'll be okay. Okay, so then I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz Flourish stencil, and I'm going to line this puppy up. See, trying to line up the top and the side. I think I'll tape it just so I can keep it in one place for right now. And I need to get out my stencil brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the turquoise blue on my stencil brush and then pick up some warm white and lighten that up a little bit. I'm gonna stencil this flourish design onto the background. Just want to see. Oh yeah, it looks nice. If I say so myself. Okay. Okay. Oh, I think that looks really nice. So now I'm just going to move this on and see if I can figure out where see if I can match it up. Never my easy thing to do. Really, if you don't match it up, it'll be okay. Okay, I think I got it here. Yeah. There we go. And line in the middle. They kind of overlap a little bit. Okay. A little time consuming, but it looks so pretty. That's what we're going for, right? Pretty? Alright. Now we're going to line it up again. I know I figured it out. How did I figure it out? Okay, there it is. Okay. Right there. Those are some big ones. So repeat 3 times. All right. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. With our little pumpkin on there, it's going to look fabulous. I'm going to set that stencil aside, and I'm rinsing out my brush. I told you I was going to use my Punchinello a little bit. So I washed out my brush. And I'm drying it off really good. This time I'm going straight warm white. And I'm just going to do some straight warm white random clusters of dots. One of my favorite sayings, a random cluster of dots, right? Just in a few places. All right. Adding interest to the background, that's all we're doing. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to float some shading around all four sides of this with that true blue. So a nice soft float of true blue with the biggest brush you can feel comfortable floating with. This one is a 3/4 inch. And of course I'm going to, when I get to corners, I'm going to walk that color out to kind of round the corners a little bit. So I'm just going to come down. I'm leaving my tape on just to help me. There. So you can see I'm just kind of rounding that corner a little bit. Right. Two more sides and we can pull the tape. And across the top. All right, let's pull our tape and see what we have. It's going to be lovely. Yep, I think he's going to be cool. All right, so our green edges, what we want to do is we want to use our 1/4 inch stripe stencil, and we're going to add some stripes to the green edges. So again, I am going to tape off that green edge. So that I can stencil freely and not worry about getting over on the other colors. All right. I've taped off those edges. One of the first things I want to do is I want to dry brush highlighting across this green with some moon yellow. Can do that before we put the stripes on. Be much easier than doing it afterwards. So again, dry brush, moon yellow. Doesn't have to be real neat this time because we're adding those stripes. And we'll add some shading. Okay, go ahead and wash that brush out. And then let's go ahead and get our stripe stencil on here. And just kind of line it up on the edge. And then lamp black. We have that on our palette already. I'm just gonna give myself some black stripes. And these don't have to be opaque either. Let me see what I'm getting here. All right. Could probably use some more lamp black on my palette. That would probably help. I'm scraping the bottom of the puddle. All right. Look pretty good. So let's line up the next little bit. All right. And let's go to the other side and do the same thing. Gonna get just a tad more lamp black. Almost done with the stripes. All right, now we can wash that brush out. And set our stripe stencil aside. All right, what I want to do is I want to take a round brush. This one is a 4. And I'm going to line some highlighting on these black stripes with that turquoise blue. Again, I'm not adding water to it. I'm kind of letting it get more dry brushy. So I'm just going to go through the centers of those black stripes. Just to break them up a little bit. I mean, they look great as just black stripes, but you know that's not me. And it probably won't surprise you that I'm going to come back and line even brighter highlighting. It would probably surprise you if I didn't. All right, one side done. Let's work on the other side. I just love Halloween colors. They make me happy. So I am going to pick up a little bit of warm white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this lighter color from the outside edge in. Okay. Again, it's still dry brushy. Let's do our other side. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to float shading with Black Forest Green. I'm going to do it at the base of the stripes, and it can go across the black because black, it'll cover it. So I'm just going to go down the inside edge of the stripes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull this tape, see what I got. It looks pretty good. So we are going to work on this little tiny stripe that was painted with dragon fruit. And what I want to do is I want to take my round brush, and what I want to do is I want to line a highlight on this stripe by picking up some dragon fruit and some warm white, so I get a lighter value of dragon fruit. And again, this is just going to be like a dry brushed highlight through this pink stripe. And then what I want to do is just wipe that brush out, pick up a little bit more warm white, and just line a little bit brighter highlight through just that center of that pink stripe. So I'm going to float shading at the top and the bottom of this stripe with deep burgundy. So basically you just kind of walk that color up a little bit. So it goes about an inch into the stripe. So I float and then just kind of walk that color up. All right. Let's work on our purple stripe. And that was painted with Purple Cow. All right, so we're going to dry brush highlighting through the center of this purple stripe with Wisteria to start with. Okay, I want to brighten that up a little bit, so I'm going to pick up a little warm white on my dirty brush. And I'm going to dry brush just a little bit brighter highlight. And it's going to stay more in the center. we're going to float shading on this stripe with dioxazine purple. I'm going to use a pretty big brush so that I can walk it down pretty far. This is a 3/4 inch. I'm just going to float on the top and bottom edge, but I'm going to walk that color up a ways. All right. So now what we can do is we can get out our lettering stencil, and we want to make sure we center this on our piece. And again, I'm going to tape it down. And I moved it. We are going to stencil our lettering on. Yeah, I think I need to move it down just a hair. Okay, I'm going to tape both sides. I want to make sure I have it flat. All right. So let's stencil our lettering with lamp black, and be very deliberate about this. Don't try to hurry through it. Okay, if you have too much paint in your brush, I like to pick up some paint and rub it around on my palette and work it into the bristles a little bit, and then I go to my towel and wipe it out so I don't have any gobs of paint. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just gonna very gently stencil this lettering on with lamp black. Some parts of the stencil might be a little delicate, so that's why you also need to be gentle. Actually, this stencil would be well worth the cost. Save you so much time as opposed to hand lettering, although hand lettering is a good thing to know. But when you're trying to do classes in a 2-hour time frame, stencils are the ticket. And you don't have to use stencils. You can hand letter it. The stencils are just there for your convenience. And as always, there's going to be more stuff that we do to this lettering. You're not going to get away with just stenciling it on there and letting it be. as always, when I use a stencil, I always like to go back. There are bridges, the parts that we needed to cut out so that we could get the whole letter. Now, I accidentally didn't do a bridge on this D, and so that's what you would get if you didn't do the bridge. So I'll just go in and fix that with some turquoise blue. But the stencils that you would buy are going to be right. I already went in and fixed the 5. So I like to take my liner brush and some lamp black, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill in those bridges. So that way it gives the illusion that I actually painted this lettering on. It finishes the lettering. It makes the piece look more finished. I mean, if you don't mind having those breaks in your letters, then don't do this. But to me, I always like to finish them off. Those of you with younger eyes, this will be much easier. But see how much better Halloween looks with those bridges filled in, as opposed to Bash, where the bridges aren't filled in. So there is a lot of lettering on here. I will most likely fast forward through this portion because you all get the idea of what we're doing here. So there we go. We've got that. So now we need to go through and do the things that I usually do to letters. Let me back up a little bit. I'm going to take my liner brush and I'm going to line some highlighting in the top of each of these letters. I'm going to do it with some Irish moss just to bring in that green again. So liner brush, no water. It's kind of like a dry brush. If you've done lettering with me before, you know the drill. So I'm just going to line a little bit of Irish moss in the top of each of those letters. And once you get the hang of it, it doesn't take all that long. But this will probably be another fast forward moment for you. Okay, so we're going to add a few details with our paint pen. I'm going to go ahead and use the white one. I do sell these on my website, and they seem to be a pretty good thing. They don't, you can use them several times. I know some paint pens that I've had they kind of dry out after the first try. I'm going to do this on the back just to see what I'm getting, and I'm good. So I'm going to add some detail lines. I'm going to line this division between the blue and the black. Oh, okay, blue and the black stripes. Really need. It's better if you have a ruler that's kind of, it's got the cork underneath, so it kind of lifts it off the surface a little. All right, so all of these stripes here are going to get a line. And I found if you don't, if you kind of go quickly, you run a better chance at not getting that little bleed under the ruler if you're using one that's just flat. And I didn't go quick enough, but it just wipes off. And one more. Should have done the inside edge first, but I didn't, so we'll just go with what we have. All right, that helped. And let's see what this is going to look like now. Oh, cute. Cute, cute, cute. All right, so I'm going to find the lid to my paint pen. Now you could also just do that with warm white and liner brush. But paint pen, as you can see, goes a heck of a lot faster. And we're into making things quick and easy. So all you need to do is glue your little guy on top here. Add a wire and some Halloween beads. And you guys are done. So a quick project, I think, that is a cute one. And if you utilize the paint pen and the stencils, it can be something that you can paint up really quickly. So I appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.